Hello, guys. So I almost studied astrophysics. I ended up studying medical physics and then eventually psychology, so a very weird mix. But because I'm a fan of physics, I thought it would be fun to see if we can break the laws of physics today. So who has watched Harry Potter before? Yeah, okay. I was going to be worried if there were no hands up. There is one of the movies in Harry Potter where they have a time turner. Like Hermione has some sort of like device that help them go back in time. And not only go back in time, but be in two places simultaneously. So I always thought, wouldn't it be amazing if I could like multiply myself, not twice, but multiple times. So basically, yeah, breaking or like find a way of going beyond what is possible. Well, AI demonstrated that we can. And then it's not only to duplicate yourself or to have 3 workflows going. You can have hundreds of workflows going simultaneously, building very interesting stuff. So I'll share that like a few things with you about how I do it. I mean, I already introduced myself, so I'm not gonna like spend too much time here. But what we cover is first, what are some of the blockers that I have found many teams have when I consult, but also in my own team. The architecture that helps me remove some of these blockers. The kind of like my agent setup. I'm gonna walk you through some of my like the skeleton of what is behind. I'm actually going to open my VS Code here for you guys. Some interesting concepts that I am exploring now, and that is like really like mind-blowing for me, and I hope that is for you and that inspire you. And then lastly, how to like do all of this economically, so we don't run out of tokens all the time. So let's dive into that. The first thing, so yeah, here is the time turner that I was explaining, and this is the thing, like you want to do multiple things at the same time. There is always a lack of time. There is always something going on, particularly when you are a startup founder and or are just working on a startup and there are like big expectations but no resources. Is kind of tough. So this is where I come, like it became the idea of like, how can we build a very strong system that can help us solve this problem? So before going into that, I want to challenge you to vote for one of these options. So which type of law do we want to break today? Number 1, or like A, is the conservation of energy principle, which will be to ship features without burning tokens. That would be nice. And the option B will be you can't be in 2 places at once. So we run hundreds of parallel systems simultaneously. Okay, whoever wants to vote for A, raise your hands. Okay, and for B? Ooh, what if we can do both? Wouldn't it be cool? Yeah, exactly. Let's learn how to do both. Okay, first, let's talk about human limitations. This is important because of also my background in psychology has demonstrated that we are not always capable to do everything. This is why I have a very solid harness. So before I got into my harness, I want to demonstrate that, it's not always possible, to hold attention for so long. So to do that, I want you to see around the room and count how many things in red can you see. Okay, I'll give you 15 seconds. Okay, time's up. I'm gonna pick 3 volunteers to tell me how many things in red they spotted. Over here? I think it's 3. Okay. Let's do over there. Yes, you. 21. Okay, that's a big difference. And what about someone there? 4. You said 4? Okay, this is closest to you. Okay, but who can tell me how many things in gray were? Probably no one, because we were not paying attention to that at all. Like, okay, now we started like looking for like things in gray. But this is like this is what happens. We have a narrow capacity for attention, humans, and this is due to our also way of thinking, our linear thinking. When we work with AI systems, we need to try to start like shifting our mindset into something called exponential thinking. The problem is that we have this capacity, like very limited capacity of attention. So how can we do that? Well, at least what I try to do is to try to, before giving an instruction, like a very precise instruction to AI, try to think of what are the words that I'm saying. These are the mega prompts that nowadays are known as skills. So like trying to build very specific stuff that can help me enhance my limited capacity for exponential thinking. So before, we would do things like kind of like context switching that can kill the momentum, that it can like make us lose attention. There are like bottlenecks of the human bandwidth, like I just demonstrated. Everything waits for one person who knows, and we have to wait until like next sprint, so then we discuss things again. But now you can have hundreds of these work streams running in parallel. Each agent, it knows what it's doing and can report back. There's no supervision required in many times if it's well constructed. And it's just in one session. So these concepts, we're going to start like from the basics towards like developing a bit more. The basic is through prompts, but not prompt engineering. It's not about how we ask questions to AI. It's about how to create systems that make sense for AI to understand. Because there is the problem is that sometimes we get super frustrated. ChatGPT doesn't understand what I'm saying, and I have repeated this 100 times, or like Claude the same. And it's like, well, but if you are given an instruction that overrules whatever you said before, it's going to get confused because it's just a probabilistic machine. So this is just a little trick that I found useful to build skills. So these prompts that are kind of like easily called by commands. The first one is progressive disclosure. This is for token economics, like to save tokens. So it basically is kind of like you don't have a massive skill. You just have a very specific role, this very specific role and very specific instructions of where to get activated as well, so then it doesn't load the context all the time automatically. And then you have a folder, a separate folder with references. So every skill should be a folder with a skill MD file or the text file and a file of references. These references could call specific tools like web search or even other skills or specific agents. And then in your MD skill, you're gonna ask the kind of like the agent to go and do something specific within the references. So instead of loading a massive mega prompt that's going to consume a lot of tokens and might confuse your agent because of this bandwidth of attention that I was mentioning, we can go and like just take it from the references. Then the idea would be to kind of like build these systems that lives either in a common repository that you can have with your team, or in my case, I have it in an Obsidian vault, whatever you prefer, doesn't matter, but have it in a place that where people can access it. And this allows you to be tool agnostic. It's not about Claude Code because it's excellent. I mean, it's really good. I use it. But it's about being flexible of what is the tool that we can use. I was just talking about that with someone over there, like, well, maybe you can use your own open source model and run your own things in private. No need of like having things within Claude per se. Okay, so instead of thinking of prompts, I want us to think about architecture. This is my main folder structure, all the things that I recommend, but instead of talking about it, I'm gonna show you. Okay. So I have just one single folder that's called workspace. Inside this folder, I have 4 things. 1 is the command center. 2, the operational system. then it's other projects I work on, and this is one of my companies. That's it. So command center, if you open, it looks like a lot, but important things here is the Claude folder, where they have a business MD that has all the information about my business, so there is always available context, and a soul MD file that talks about who am I, like what are my values, what is my tone, my preferences in writing, so like it doesn't sound generic. Like it is not a revolution, it is the new opportunity. Kind of like, you know what I mean, so no. So everything is safe here, and I have a couple of like JSON files that instruct Claude on how it should behave. If you're not that technical, don't worry. Literally, just grab a voice memo, drop everything about your life, your business, get a transcription of that. You can use Google Notebook LM to get a transcription, upload the transcription here. It's just like create a business MD file with this, a soul MD file with that, and I need the JSON instructions of how the sessions should start loading this context. That's it. Okay, the next thing that I have here is the agents. So agents, I have one file, one MD file that defines very specifically what is the model that each agent should be using, what are the tools that calls that model, what is the specific skills that the agent uses, and the role. And of course, rules, regulations, the guardrails. That's it. There are other ways of doing this more sophisticated that I will share eventually, but in here I just have a list of different agents that I have defined. And to call them, the way that I would use it is through skills. I created like all of these bunch of skills, but my favorite one and the one that I use a lot is the swarm skill. So in this one, I will explain a bit more about this also later, but it's just a multi-agent orchestration system, but no spoilers yet. Okay, lastly, I would have here in the operations, just these two files. Within these two files, I have a second brain, which has projects, markets, reference, business, within business, for example, clients, decisions, finance, etc. And yeah, specific projects I work on within my business, pretty much. It's just a folder within a folder within a folder, just trying to be as organized as possible. Okay, these are the important ones. And yeah, so then in my case, this is just my case because it's what I use. You are going to get to build your own stuff, your own stack. I have around 60 skills, one line full like a specific description that I've mentioned with your progressive disclosure, so we don't overload the token usage. Then I have about specific commands that I can call in for tasks that are more like punctual, let's say, that trigger workflows that I built. There is another thing that's called dynamic workflows that it was just last month released by Claude. It uses a lot of tokens. I say wasted. It uses a lot of tokens because it deploys multiple like parallel agents. Then you have an orchestrator. The orchestrator communicates with everyone, and it looks cool, but it can be, I don't know, in my case, it felt a bit like wasting tokens. So I think like with a good setup, you still get good results. I also have rules. This is really important. We can't skip that because just out of like personal experience, one day I couldn't open just Word documents, and it's just like, why? Then I started like searching for PowerPoint, no PowerPoint, and then Excel, no Excel. It's just like, what's going on? And I discovered that Claude deleted my whole Microsoft 365 system. And it's just like, how did that happen? So it's just, okay, let's start creating rules. Do not ever touch my programs, like stuff like that. Okay, and then to create a solid harness, one thing are the skills, the prompts, instructions that we give. Of course, we have the file structure, so being organized helps. But also we have memory systems. It's not only about the tools, the MCPs, and the prompts. Memory is one of the biggest problems with reliability that we have with AI. Right now, you have the Claude MD file, which the purpose of it is creating some sort of memory system for you. But it gets cluttered very fast. If it gets cluttered, AI has this tendency that it will just prioritize the last thing that you said over the first thing that you said. So that loses, like, you can lose a lot of context in a way. So a way that I do it, I have 3-layer memory system. One of the layers is, of course, the Claude MD file with a memory file that is naturally built. The second layer is my Obsidian setup for the a little bit more nerds like me that are in the room. Who knows Obsidian? Okay, you're my people. And the people who doesn't know Obsidian are going to get you into that. So you have kind of like you can actually create a second brain. What's the idea of the second brain? You dump any information that you have. Like, oh, this is my first time in Brighton, and I went to the lanes, and in the lanes I discovered this restaurant. I think it's kind of cool. I want to go back tomorrow. So you just dump information about business, but also, at least in my case, about life. The cool thing is that it's private. So it doesn't have to be Obsidian, by the way. It's just one tool. You can use whatever. But I like it because it's the privacy stuff as well. So then I kind of like organize my life in like this random folder of things, and then I can have a visual picture of how all my thoughts connect to each other. So I can identify patterns, I can identify opportunities, I can remember things easier. At the point that I was going into a startup competition, I forgot entirely about the submission, but I talked about it like months ago with my talking about something totally separate to Claude, and then it reminded me this, and it's just like, oh, by the way, do you want me to help you with this stuff that you have going that you mentioned back in the day? The deadline is in a week, and it's just like, oh my gosh, yes, thank you. So that is the kind of thing. So that is one of my memory systems, and then the last one is a repo that I found that I think is interesting. That's called MemPalace. So what it does is semantic search. So it will search for specific keywords. So instead of like searching across the whole context, burning all of the tokens at the same time, we'll just go for specific stuff that you wanted to go to. So like that, I'm trying, to solve kind of like that reliability problem in my setup. This is how it looks like for those who hasn't seen Obsidian. So this is my brain. Each one of these dots is one specific file, an MD file, and you can see how they connect with each other. So this is good because it just helps also getting context faster. So if I'm looking across, let's say this dot is clients, so it will look across clients faster instead of like looking over every single client until they find the actual person that I'm trying to reach out. Okay. In the case of agents, so I've shown you before that I have this swarm, like kind of like a bee swarm, and based on that, I built also my agent system. So I will have the roles defined. This is just for product development. So if you're like spinning tools, this is quite useful. I will have the orchestrator. So the human decides what we're gonna build. Eventually, we have the orchestrator who is going to understand the challenge and pass it to the architect, so the architects can build specific achievable milestones. I use Opus for that because it's kind of like the smart guy here. Then we get to Sonnet because it's pretty good at coding anyway, and then I save some tokens for front-end, back-end, researcher, reviewer, tester, deploy agents. These agents, the deploy one, for instance, have one skill embedded that's called Doc Finder that basically finds real-time data of API documentation that is like very up-to-date. This is very good because it just like saves us a lot of time. So before deploying, it just checks that it's compliant with everything, and it just deploys things that is solid and ready to use. So it's pretty good. All of them work in parallel, but in different ways that I explain later. And then the last one, I just have the intern of AI models, which is Haiku. So I would just use Haiku to as a librarian, or to log what did we do today, what were the lessons learned, and then create some sort of feedback loop that will get us into kind of like we already did this. Yes, this is this structure that I use. The first thing is we have the agents MD file that decompose the tasks into the different sub-agents. And this first wave, let's say, is the one that starts like understanding the problem, orchestrating the issue, creating the milestone, creating the next steps. Then there is an integrity check on like the work produced based with these specific skills like debug, test, stuff like that. And then there is a second wave of actual coding. So at least this is the way that I've tried so far, that it works well. Yeah, it's for me as simple as saying like create a change of language button in the home screen app, and then I call the swarm, and then I hit go. And it would already like read my repository, understand what's going on. It will even know what app I'm referring to, what I was saying, although I'm working on multiple apps. So yeah, the first thing, as you can see here, it starts reading the agent MD file. So, okay, let's go. And of course the skill. So then it will get the instructions that I gave on like how the wave should be deployed. And then, I mean, I'm gonna stop it because I don't need that button, but you get the idea. All right. Okay, so this is it. However, this is not how we turn, like, become into 100 builder. Like, this is it. So this is a thing that I was discussing the other day with a friend who is a CTO, and I found it quite fascinating. There are two different like trends going on in AI development now, that is compound engineering and the dark factories. So compound engineering is something that I feel more close to, aligning values, because there is always a human in the loop. There is always a human being the mind, the creative element. In dark factories, there is no one. It's fully automated. But let's start with one. In the case of compound engineering, traditional engineering will go like, you have an idea, you test the idea to see how it goes. If it's, okay, a good idea, let's go and build it. So, okay, we have the human intent. And then we brainstorm and plan how we're going to do it. We get to work, we review it, we launch, and then there is an iteration process. We get feedback, and then we go back again. But there is all very human. With compound engineering, there is a last element, which is whatever systems are we coding or programming. This is also, by the way, doable with not only with development, but also operations. So we can have this file that I mentioned before that I have for my skills, that is the feedback file. And this feedback file will start compounding over time learnings, difficulties, stoppers. So then eventually it kind of like creates this feedback loop. So then every time you spin a specific skill or a specific set of agents, it will just self-improve and get better and better until it's almost automatically. There is still the human component in this one, which is we decide what to build, but I mean, you kind of like have to know what to build. But this is what it gets a bit different with in the case of the dark factories. So we started with prompt engineering, we focused on word, then eventually, no, we have to plan the context with, yeah, of course, harness, okay, the tools, the hooks, the MCPs, all of this, and now, well, we loop everything together. So we are trying to, like, what I'm trying to say here is that where I see AI going, I'm not in the business of knowing the future, but it's not necessarily maybe about a tool, but about how we build with the systems that we have. So I think like a quite nice setup that we can arrange. So yeah, this is basically what I just explained. We spend most of our human time in the planning phase, in the brainstorming ideation, because AI is still quite dumb in the sense of like, probably a 6-year-old would be much more creative in finding out ways of tying their shoelaces for the first time without even seeing somebody doing it than AI doing it and understanding what is a shoe. So we still plan, we work just like tiny here and there supervision, so whilst we polish this feedback loop, and then we review the other part of the time until we get the loop done, and then we compound everything. So, of course, we can write code, that's fine. We can use agentic flows to kind of like speed up not the creative process, but at least the mechanical things, which, by the way, is not always the fastest way. Sometimes it's just like, just write a line if you know how to code. If not, okay. But then when we have engineered these loops and compounding knowledge, we can create pretty interesting stuff. And about the dark factory, I just don't have time to like cover everything, but is removing entirely the human element. So it is like an actual factory. So you can have inside a company multiple factories that are highly specialized on one specific feature. So they are trained on everything, every part of the element, and the ideation, code review, and feedback loop all together in this eternal loop. And there are already companies doing that. For example, Spotify engineered this in a way that they haven't written code since December. We have Google, OpenAI, and a very interesting case on Zara Inditex with something that's called fluid software. So is the concept of like, okay, if we do these factories that are just compounding and they don't require a human in this space, we could have potential opportunities of creating software that is dynamic, mobile apps that are dynamic. So it's not about a website that you can ask the agents to create for you. It's about a website that changes in real time depending on the person that is looking at it, with high personalization. The copy, the text, the images, the colors, all specific for you. You can use it in targeted advertisement, websites, apps, all of this stuff. So it's interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. I kind of like rather still to have the creative mindset, but I love the innovative idea of creating like software that is not like, oh yes, we're this SaaS company and we sell the same thing to everyone, but you can customize it automatically. People don't even have to ask AI to change it for you. You would just realize because of user behavior. So you will have heat maps around the website to understand where you click, and then when you go back, and then in base of that, it will just like change. Kind of like putting a shoe on, and then it starts to mold to your feet. So you would have AI systems that will like also like mold, let's say, your website, apps, and software in general. Okay. So yeah, I already showed you the swarm. This is an example of like a little website that I created like in 2 minutes before I came. So it's just like, for instance, it's just like swarm, create a website on whatever. A collaboration between Soho House and a Catalonian Spanish sparkling water brand. It just like pulls the photos directly from the internet. All the history is accurate. It would just have like, yeah, the photos of the place. And it has the links that automatically connect. There is nothing broken within the website. So yeah, it's just like to demonstrate the power of the swarm. When you have a good harness, you can go beyond. You can take it for business as well. So for instance, I created this business intelligence for my main company that pulls real-time sentiment analysis on Reddit and blogs of like what people are saying about my competitors, about products that I'm building. I have also like actual comments, for example, from people, so I can understand from my ICP. I would have what's going on with competitors also in real time, where the market is going. So what is the opportunity and priorities of the opportunity for my business as well. So this is just because like when you give pretty strong context, and also you have build your kind of like your second brain, you will have information, like systems that can get you quite useful information. Okay, so to wrap up a bit, yeah, this is it. Like you can go beyond just coding. Claude Code can do much more than that. And this is an example of like what a good harness can look like. So in my company, by creating all of these like memory layers, MCP tools, and a good file structure, I managed to get from a context window start of like 15,000 tokens at the beginning of every session to 8,000 tokens of optimization with the same quality. So that is a 42% amount of tokens that I'm saving. And at today, I just use one Claude Max account, the 90 pounds one, for my whole team, and we don't run out of tokens. So this is, that's okay, so one thing before I finish. I have a challenge for you. I'd like you to connect with me on LinkedIn, do a little post about whatever, you take a picture or a selfie, tag me, and I'll just select a random person at the end of the day to give a guide with all of the setup for Claude. So all of the full file structure, like the skills, I'm just going to give it all to that person. Like, here it is, what it took me like a year to build for you. So yeah, feel free just to post that, tag me later. And anyway, I just post more of the interesting stuff in my Substack, so if you want to connect, and thank you so much.
Oh my God. Okay, we are about to break for lunch, but we have a couple minutes for a couple questions. If anyone has any, just raise your hand. We'll come over with a mic. Here we go.
Hiya, fantastic talk, thank you. Sorry, it's
Where
over
is
here.
it? Oh, okay.
Quick question. You talked about the kind of agentic swarming and fanning out, converging. Have you looked at Ultra Code and the kind of adversarial review process within Claude Code? And have you compared it to your swarming?
Can you?
Yeah, sorry. So in Claude Code, have you looked at Ultra Code and the kind of fanning out of agents within the Ultra Code setting and looking at adversarial reviews of code compared to your kind of swarming out, converging? Have you compared the outputs of both approaches?
Yeah, I mean, I used to work more with like just regular parallelization of agents. For me, it was a bit disorganized and slower. So it's a tiny difference, but in the matter of speed, for sure. And I recently just do it by accident. I forgot to put like the swarm. I just said, why is this taking so long? And then effectively the result was kind of sloppy. I did it again with the swarm, and it's just like that. It knew what to do. So I think like the structure of organization of behavior across agents is actually quite helpful. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Hello, thank you for your talk. My name is Suma. I have so far used AI self-learning, and my next level is AI agent. So I'm so impressed with your talk with Claude. So my question is there any other tools we can use for AI agents rather than Claude? So for an example, so far I have used ChatGPT. So any other tools for AI agents, please?
It depends. You can build AI agents from scratch, kind of like with systems like, you can. It depends on specifically what you want, no? So if you want to like build them from scratch, spin a Java or something like that. But if you want to do this kind of like, using a coding agent and decomposing the different roles and systems, you just need the MD files on like how do you want the behavior to look like. I don't know, like Codex, for instance, like you said, is excellent. You can use the anti-gravity. It has interesting functions as well now. I mean, Cursor as well, you can build a lot of stuff with that. So even just like your own open source model run locally as well. So I don't think it's necessary to think about Claude specifically, but just to build very tool agnostic, good structures, so that you never rely exactly on one specific or the other. Actually, I think it's a kind of cool idea if we together, I don't know where all of you guys are from, but I heard there's people from Norwich, others from here from Brighton, people from Barcelona. Locally, find ways of building your own, or at least training or fine-tuning your own models within the communities, that could be quite empowering instead of like relying on American and Chinese tech. So definitely possible.
Amazing. Stephany, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Big hand for Stephany once more.
Thank you.
Find her on LinkedIn.